Hey everyone, J-Rob Plays here, and today I'm going to be putting together an LFG guide for players who play solo or just don't have your friends on and you're trying to knock out the GM this week. And this is going to be the build that you can use to pretty much carry your team. In the final boss, you'll be able to dunk the orbs without being really damaged at all by any of the enemies. As long as you're using your invisibility appropriately, you can get in, get a dunk, and get out before your invisibility ends. The only time you take damage is if your invisibility comes out at a bad time, or if your teammates happen to be standing around you and they get you hit by the enemies, any kind of AoE attacks, or just in the line of an enemy's beam attack, like a wizard, for example. Those are the only times you're really going to take damage, so just be aware of that. But otherwise, it's going to allow you to handle the boss, to move the boss around the arena without taking too much damage, go invis if he gets too close. And you'll see kind of some of the strats that I use in the boss arena. It's going to allow you to handle a lot of the teamwork that will be done when you're getting the towers done. I'll also show you how to do the towers solo or with the group without having to have too many ads bother you. It's a little bit harder to do in a team setting with no communication because, as you'll see in the actual run that I do, the teammates come up too far and they spawn the ads and they open up B. You need to actually pass up B and go to C first, and then let C complete, and then you can do B. So that threw me off a little bit, but it's fine. I still dealt with it. However, in the middle sections, you're going to be strong because if anybody dies, you'll be able to go invis and get them up. And then if, depending on the order in which you use your invis, you can then make them invisible as they res. So it's a strong build, and it's one that you can use for any GM, really. It's just really well suited for GMs like these that have a lot of tight quarters and are going to end up with a lot of deaths, and you can be the hero. And you'll see that I was the hero in my GM that I ran today. I actually finished it off by myself with my teammates dead because they kept getting killed, and I didn't want to go out there and risk dying to get them. Let me just finish the GM at that point, and you'll see that in the footage. So from here, I'm going to go over the build. We're going to start with the Graviton Lance as the exotic. This is going to increase your duration of invisibility effects, and this is going to allow you to loop your two invisibilities that you'll be using. In the subclass, we're going to be taking advantage of Vanishing Step, so dodging is going to make you invisible, and then I use Gambler's Dodge because that's going to allow me to get my melee back, which allows me to loop the invisibility even more. So Trapper's Ambush is your other invisibility. If you do a quick fall, so air move, and that'll do a quick fall, that'll expend your smoke cloud, your melee ability. So you start with that, and then you run through a group of enemies. When you're about to run out of your invisibility, and then you dodge, you're going to get your melee back immediately. So you can almost always have your invisibilities up, and Trapper's Ambush comes back rather quick when you have your stats set up the way that I do anyway, so you may not even need to worry about using Gambler's Dodge, but it's just there in case you need to loop your abilities and you're near a bunch of enemies, a group of enemies. That's how you do it. You quick fall first, and then right when you're about to run out of invis, you Gambler's Dodge. And you want to stay invis long enough for your abilities to come back, because when you're in invisibility, your melee will come back a little bit quicker. So that's going to allow you to continue again to loop those back and forth, back and forth. As far as for the fragments go, I'm doing the Echo of Persistence. That's going to increase duration of my invisibility again, which leads into the invisibility looping. I'm doing Echo of Dilation just for the mobility. You can use it to sneak around a little faster, but I'm just using it for the mobility. The enhanced radar is nice, but again, it's just for stats. Same with Echo Leashing, also just for stats. You're not going to get a lot of melee ability kills. You're not going to get a lot of melee kills in general. I just have it for resilience. That way I could have 100 mobility as well. That helped me get to that point. And then for the vigilance, this is if you defeat a target while you're already low and you happen to get a quick kill, that'll give you an overshield, which will give you a little more time to get into invisibility. So that's just a life-saving thing there. But you can switch it out for something else if you feel like you don't need it, if you need the stats. So again, for the stats, I'm running 100 mobility, 100 resilience, and 100 strength. And that is also kind of crucial. You want to have high mobility to get your setup to where you can get this ability back quickly before the other one runs out. And sometimes you'll still end up in a situation where they're almost like there's like a 1 second difference if you don't do them in the right order, if you don't have anybody around you to trigger the Gambler's Dodge, but you'll still be fine for the most part. That's the setup there. That's the subclass and the way that I have my armor set up. Now I'm going to go through the mods really quickly of what I used. I used heavy ammo finder so that I could just have a little bit more heavy. I didn't happen to use my heavy as much as I could have, but it was because I had the bow, the strong bows using the Monarch, and that was really what I was just staying distance, playing safe, and getting kills by tagging things up and letting them dot down from the poison damage. I was using Harmonic Siphon to make orbs for me and my teammates. Here I had Kinetic Siphon on. I don't necessarily think I could have probably just done like another harmonic siphon, or I could have done the arc siphon if I wanted to do that. From there, I just went into the GM. I didn't think about trading this out. You can put anything in this slot here. I was doing bolstering detonation and fastball, and I swapped out my mobility mod, and I was in a hurry, so I didn't actually put anything else in here, but you can slot anything that you'd like in here. If you're short on discipline, you can do this one, but I wouldn't recommend it because I'm using utility kickstart. So you could just put like another uh, bowstring detonation to make sure you get your class ability back when you cause damage with the grenade. So just something to kind of help keep your abilities moving. But I did it with just the one bowstring detonation, just fine. The next thing that we're looking at is going to be on the chest. So for the chest mods, we're going to be doing the solar resistance and void resistance. Void for the ogres, solar resistance for the shredders. You can do some arc resistance in here as well. I chose to go with a concussive dampener just so that anything that's AoE, like the boss slam, doesn't do as much damage to me, or if I'm getting hit by like a boomer, it doesn't do as much damage to me. But you can also just go arc here if you feel confident not to get slammed and killed. This is just from the Old God's Boon. It's always going to stay in this because it's Dark Hollow Grass, what I'm using. For the leg armor, I did Absolution, so I get all ability cooldowns when I pick up an orb. I get health when I pick up an orb, and then class ability again to help keep my loop going. I do use, again, utility kickstart so that when I use my class ability, I get a little bit of class ability back when I have something there for it. Proximity ward, if I'm in like a problem where I'm like stuck and I need to finish something to absorb an attack so that I can then get my invisibility going. That's why I had that. I didn't really have to use it too much, but that's what it's there for. And then this one here is it gives my melee cooldown back when I use my class ability, just in case my class ability came up before my melee and I'm not near something to use my gambler's dodge. That helps that too. So this can be always adjusted to your tastes, but this is just what I use for the run, so you can kind of see what I was using for the run. As far as the setup for the Tablet of Ruin, I was using the anti-barrier sidearm, and I was using the overload machine gun, and I was using the stunning ability from the machine gun here to stun the unstoppable champions. If you put on a power of resolve weapon mod, if you have a situation where you're shooting at the ogres, it'll send out a taken projectile, it'll stun those guys. If for whatever reason they're being difficult, because I did experience where they weren't stunning properly, you can always come back to the Tenacious Mastery that I'm using with Chill Clip, shoot them 3 times, they'll freeze, and when the freeze breaks, then they'll stun, and then you can go ham on them as well. So I've got both anti-barrier and unstoppable handled with just this one weapon. This was just a backup, and this was my heavy damage dealer, which was the Lemon Arc. And the reason why it's strong is because, again, we have those void items that are in the artifact. So you're looking at volatile marksman, rapid void precision hits gives you volatile rounds. And then when you're defeating weakened targets that are volatile, it applies more volatile. And so it's a nice synergy that you have going there. I was also using the improved exhaust and sever. So when I was shooting things with my machine gun, for example, that was going to be severing things or exhausting them, should I say, because the exhaustion that comes from the overload machine gun. So this is where the exhaust synergy comes in. And then if I'm dealing sustained damage to them, I get a damage resistance and I get a slight increase in grenade and melee regeneration for a short time from this. So this really synergized well with the machine gun. So you can use that as well. I had the maximum bolt charge giving me amplification. So that's when I was playing with the Titan, for example, I could stand by their shield, get bolt charge, and then I can use that same setup that you normally do when you're an arc subclass, but on a different subclass. So it's nice to have this flashover work when you're not in an arc subclass. And so that's pretty much everything. You got your weakening burst, you got your volatile burst, and then you have additional volatile spreading. So in large areas, you just have to dot up 1 or 2 things, and then everything is volatile, everything is weakened. So the bow does really well when you can crank that up. And then, of course, getting that machine gun going to where if you are in trouble and things are pushing you, you can pull out your machine gun, you can get that additional damage resistance from this perk, and then you can kill things and get heals as well. So it's a nice setup overall. I really liked how it felt in the GM. I didn't ever really feel super pressured. Again, the only times I died were if I were in a situation where a teammate spawned something around me, or I was just, again, somebody dragged something to me that slammed that I wasn't aware of. That was the only time I really died in the GM. Normally I don't die at all in these situations, but I was just playing lazy today. I wasn't really trying like super try hard to do so. And since I already have a run showing how it is when you are playing super try hard and you are not dying, I'll put that in the description so you can kind of see what it looks like when you're running around and you're just playing really slow. But in this case, just for your guys' time, since the build guide's in the front, I'm just going to put snippets of my run that are important to kind of showing you how exactly I did things, and just kind of moving that along so you can quickly see what it's like when you're in this class doing the run, how the boss looks, and I'll be giving commentary over that as well. Now, if you had any additional questions on the build, or if something I forgot to cover is in here, just drop me a comment and I'll cover that for you, so that way you can have that information before you go into your GM. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the run with the commentary, and thanks very much for watching the video. So when you touch down here, you're going to want to take advantage of the build, and you're going to want to go invisible, so that way you don't have to worry about killing any of the enemies. And you can stay invisible as long as you remain invisible until your abilities come back. So what you'll notice, you can chain your dodge ability into your dash ability, into your quick fall ability. So if I just go into here, and now I have the ability to walk through this, nothing's touching me. And then once I get out of the invisibility, my other ability is up. And by the time that my 10 seconds runs out, because I'm running the graviton, I'll have another ability up. And so I can always go back and forth between the two, back and forth between the two, and I won't have to worry too much about being visible for long. So what you're going to do then is you're going to tuck into here. As you can see, no enemies have spawned, and nobody knows where I'm at right now. I'm just going to start taking out C. And if you go too far forward, you're going to end up spawning enemies. Also, you don't want to end up opening up B, because if you open up the B and you destroy the hive gunk on B first, then you will have enemies spawning here and you won't be able to complete this process. And so now that this is done, I'm going to go forward and I'm going to stand in the corner here. And you'll see nothing is bothering me right now. And I'm getting progress on C. And this is something, again, you can do as a team, as long as everybody's cooperating and nobody's messing up your run. Like as you'll see in the run that I did have teammates mess up the run by opening up B, and that ends up getting me killed in the run that I did with a group that I was help carrying the group. So just be careful, and don't expect, if you're not on comms, don't expect everybody to know exactly what the strategy is. But if you do have comms and you do know what's going on, you can actually take advantage of this strategy and you can knock out C and even B. So the hive boss will spawn here, and he'll walk away here in a sec. You just gotta duck down and let him do his thing. And there it goes, B is gonna go up. And on this one, you still may have to defend it. You'll get a couple of thrall show up there, so you can see there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use this ability of mine to go out there and go invis, and I'm going to go and kill the thrall, invis out, and then come back. As you can see, I'm still here getting progress, and I don't have to worry about being hit by the boss who's there on my left just chilling. So not all is lost if something does happen to get into the zone. Just watch out for the ogre spawning here. For some reason this ogre is not being stopped like it should be. Normally, if you're looking at my weapon here, I have this mod that says strong against unstoppable champions, rapid hits amid a taken seeker. He's actually not taking stun damage, which is interesting. So I'm just going to hit him up with ice, and that'll stun him there. Here we're just taking out the barrier knight out of the equation. there you go. You got your 2 towers. Now all that's left is to go do A, and I'll show you how I do A on my team run. But this is basically a good way to, if you're doing this solo, to start this off, or if you are on a team and you're able to do this coordinated without having to worry about messing with too much going on around. But your abilities are so strong, and as long as you're using this build appropriately, you can actually do these normally as a team and just stay out of bad areas. If you're over here, you can actually end up going invis and holding the plate invis as long as the enemies aren't stepping on there. Of course, you can also bow the enemies over there, and you'll see that in the playthrough as well. Now here's an example of what it looks like when your teammate moves a little too far up and spawns the enemies already. You can see how the enemies are spawning there, and the knights behind me only chased me up here and spawned me because the teammate behind me was activating the B terminal, the B tower, and so this is why I was getting all these enemies around me, and I didn't expect them to be here, so I ended up dying because my teammate wasn't in sync with me. He opened up the B terminal, the B tower, and it spawned all those guys around me and killed me. So what's going to end up happening is I'm going to have to then go into C and clear C by either being invis around C or taking out all the enemies on C. So I'm going to skip forward so you can see me doing that as well. So here you can see the enemies are all in the C range, and they all have little weapons over their heads showing like these little weapon icons, crucible icons showing that they're there. So I'm just going to drop a grenade, go back invis, and just kind of let them cook, and that's going to get rid of primarily a lot of the smaller enemies. And now all I have to do is just balance where the enemies are and where my position is and get them out of there. Now, since I see my teammates struggling on B, I'm just going to come over and help them on B. That way, if somebody goes down or if they're in a bad position, I can get them out of there quickly. So what I'm doing is I'm just picking at the Warmonger Knight, and I'm going to go and jump on top of the terminal and hide up there from that Warmonger Knight. And again, be very careful. The Knight can kill you rather quickly. If he hits you 2 or 3 times, you want to make sure that you're out of there. So I've got my super now, and I'm going to make sure that the zone starts to capture again. And then I see this guy getting attacked by a Unstoppable, so I'm like, okay, let me go ahead and help this guy. These are the new Unstoppables that have the larger shield, so they're a lot harder to stun. Some people originally thought they were just like seeing things, but no, they did update the model with the Taken. They're now like dire Taken, and so because of that, the flanks are also the dire flanks. All the flanks have bigger shields, and they're a lot more difficult to stun, and they're hard to hit with anything but maybe like a fusion rifle from the front. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention to their open spots, either their head poking out or their feet, in order to get the stun off. And in our case, it's easier because you just got to shoot them with the Tanashi's Mastery and let them freeze, and then from there, they'll be easier to kill. Now here, again, I'm showing how good it is when you have this grouping ability to bring them together. You can either hit them with the nade, you can hit them with your super like I did, bring them all together, and then hit them with a lemon arc, let the poison spread. It weakens everything, it makes everything volatile. And then if you have a Titan around, you can also then start dropping in bolt charges on them, and you can clear enemies out rather quickly, even if they're a little tanky, or even if you're slightly under light, for example. And so that's what I'm doing here. And now I was going to stay here invisibly, and I would have been perfectly fine doing that, but my teammate decided that he wanted to jump in as well, and again, we're not on comms, and I'm just like, whatever, it's fine, I'll just protect him, and I'll just make sure that nothing hurts him, and if I can make him invisible and prevent him from getting hit by certain things, I will, and so that's what I'm working on there. Now, the enemy that you saw running in, if you're just coming back and you haven't played during the last few seasons or episodes, that's a Bane enemy. If you don't kill that enemy with the fire over his head, they will explode, and you'll see later on in the run how the enemies do explode multiple times, and I'm running out of the range. You just got to get as far away from you can as the enemy, because it has a similar effect to the flame wizards that do that area of effect blast, and if that area of effect blast hits you, kind of like a large orb of fire coming out of them, that fireball will kill you, so just be aware of that. And so as you can see, again, it's really strong how you can go invis in the middle of a fight if you're getting attacked in a bad situation, and you can just run away and reposition. And as you can see, if I needed to go invis again, I've already got my strength already almost back to full for my melee ability, and I could have just dodged that point and gotten my second invisibility in, Another thing to note for the invisibility is that if you're using graviton and you go invisible with 1 or 2 seconds left, you get a longer invisibility add than if you just let the invisibility end and then went invisible again. So just keep that in mind. If you're trying to loop your invisibilities, you want to make sure you're going invisible a second time or using whatever the other ability is right before the first one ends, so that you can get that additional 2 or 3 seconds of add. So here's the explosion I was telling you about with the Bane enemy, and so I'm just getting the heck out, and you can see kind of the edge of it as it's pulsating where the pulse is going to end. And so our teammate, not on this pulse, but I think on the next pulse, is not so lucky, and you can kind of see how he just gets taken out pretty easily by this into the next section. Now with these unstops, I can stun them myself with the tenacious. I'm trying to stun some of them here in a second with my machine gun, but the positioning is a little weird because I'm getting attacked from the left. I don't know what enemy was attacking me that was next to this person with the shield that they could have been attacking, but it's fine. I just reposition, and then I'm going to try to stand on the shield and build up my bolt charge and get it amplified. Now again, here I'm just picking at enemies. I'm trying to get them to spread weaken and spread volatile to the enemies around them. And I'm only using my bow for the most part on the ogres because they're far enough away that I don't need to just blow all my heavy. I can conserve my heavy. Although in this section you don't have to worry too hard about that, just because there is a heavy box down below that you can pick up. But I'm always just safe with my ammo. I always make sure that I'm not going to be caught without any of the tools that I need in order to succeed in the mission. So I'm a little bit more conservative with my heavy ammo in this situation. Now here I just dropped the bow in the position where if anything spawns again, it'll get slowed and picked up by the bow, and then I can also use the bow to weaken and do additional damage to the boss knight. Here comes another explosion. This is the one that I was telling you about that ends up catching a teammate.
Guardian down.
And there you go, Guardian down. And so here, that was the last of the towers, so I'm just grabbing ammo, and I'm just going to let them pick up the tool that they use to get into the hive gunk here. You want to try to concentrate it on just one side of the hive gunk. You don't want to do like this guy and just like wave it around back and forth, because you don't want to end up having to wait for another one to spawn because you didn't destroy enough hive gunk to get through. So just knock out one of the corners so that you can sneak into the corner and don't worry about anything else. Now here, the ogre was pushing us, so I wanted to make sure that I was safe and that I got the stun off on him, and our teammate happened to pop his super at a good time, and so then I stepped up since I'm with the anti-barrier, and I'm going to make sure that this knight doesn't get his barrier and heal. And here's again a good use of the heavy to make sure that the knight gets put down before it can take out our teammate. On this section, of course, you deploy your ghosts, and then we're going to stand up on the staircase, and I'm going to cover both the left and the right side of my teammates. My best that I can, of course. I obviously can't do two things at once, but I'm going to try to make sure that people don't get, or enemies don't get up onto the staircase to my left, and I want to make sure to keep an eye on my right because there are going to be enemy spawns that move to the right side or even start on the right side of us from where we are behind the shield. And this is a good place to be as a team, because as long as you can bottleneck things up the stairs, or as long as you can bottleneck things to the right side, you can actually use your abilities to prevent any of the melee units or any of the cursed thralls from getting too close to your team. And if you need to fall back, you have room on the right and the left side to fall back. You can even jump down underneath, under the boxes there, especially on the invis build that I'm on. I can just go hide, let everything filter out, and then pick up whoever I need to that's safe. And again, main goal is to keep the knights from getting their barriers up, to keep the Bane enemies away from the group, like this Bane enemy here in the middle. And then if we have an unstopped, you want to make sure that unstopped cannot just run your teammates down. Now, as I'm using my bow, that's just because I'm in like a zone. I should have pulled out my heavy there. I would have definitely been better served to pull out my heavy for the Bane enemy and just nuke the Bane enemy down, but we didn't have to worry about that. I let my teammates go in biz to save them, and as you can see, we're repositioning, and then they were able to finish off that knight. So what I did is I prevented them from taking damage from the Bane enemy, because the Bane enemy gave up on its swing once they were both in biz, which opened up an opportunity for them to stun them. And yeah, we still lost one of the guys, but it wasn't going to be as bad as if that main enemy came in and started swinging it. We could have lost both teammates in one swing. So here I didn't shoot the cursed thrall on purpose, so if that happens and you res somebody near the cursed thrall, don't just kill the cursed thrall immediately, because their explosions can chain, and then that could end up kind of taking the teammate down and wasting a res there, which, as you'll see later on, we do need the reses. That kind of weird behavior here from the champions, to have them both kind of huddling in the corner like that. It's not normal. So that's why I'm just picking at the ogre rather than going down there. I'm going to make sure that the biggest threat is taken down first before I go in there and open myself up to, like, these hidden cursed thrall, for example, that could get our teammate there. Like, he could have died if it wasn't for me and the other teammate taking out the cursed thrall on the way in, and what do you know, he did die. So keep in mind, if you're this player here and you're coming down, that there's a lot of cursed thrall that are going to hide around corners, and in this part of the encounter, it's just a matter of getting to the 100% on the counter, and as long as the counter is reestablished, which it is here, you don't have to worry about the cursed thrall because they're hiding. They're not going to cease the progress. Now you see that little diamond far out there? I could go invisible and grab that. I just don't want to put myself in a situation where I end up getting either caught in one of the traps, or I end up having my invisibility come off for just a second and get nuked and then die and kind of lose the ability to help be a backbone for my team. I want to make sure that I prioritize my life because I have the easiest time rezzing those guys. So even though that'll add like 10-15% to the timer, I'm just going to stay back and not even risk going and picking that up to lower the timer down. Now, key there is you want to make sure that you burn down that ogre, because that ogre does really focus hard on one player and can run you all your team down and stomp kill you. So anytime that ogre spawns, pop your super, give him everything you got heavy. You want to make sure that ogre doesn't even have a chance to fire its beam, which in this case we were able to kill it without it getting too close and starting to run people down and fire the beam. Now, as you notice, that knight that just disappeared, its goal was to get all the way across and to disrupt the countdown. So those knights, you want to make sure you try to find a way to stun them or prevent them just in general from getting into the area where the ghost is, because it will stop the countdown. Now these lasers, since you don't have the ability anymore to just run through them because we don't have the artifact, or the, I guess it's like a weapon enhancement that we used to have from the season of the Seraph season that we were in, where we could pick things in the actual Rasputin chamber that allowed us to just walk through these lasers. Since that's gone, those lasers will one-shots you, so just take your time and be careful. And as you can see here, here's another great way that this build simplifies this run, is as I'm walking through this area, you have 15 seconds to get through the area without the towers killing you, and it gets kind of tight. It gets down to like 3 seconds to 1 second here. And as you can see, I just walking by it and the lasers never see me. Same thing here, the enemies are trying to kill me. I'm going to go invis again, and I'm going to lose their aggro. And this is a skip here. If you notice, I stood on the top of the hill, jumped straight up to this pipe, walk out a little farther because there's a kind of like a invisible roof over you for a second, jump up on the right here, and then you can deploy your ghost. And as you can see, I beat my teammate. Fortunately, our other teammate died down there. I was going to go hit him with an invis, but I saw that my teammate took off after him, and I said, okay, let me just stay here and clear enemies. If he dies too, I'll go down there as well. But in the meantime, I'm just going to sit and wait. There's no point in both of us going back to get that res. So this is what I'm doing here, is I'm forcing these enemy packs to back up. The enemies on the right, as you can see, have already started to filter back upward toward the stairs because of the fact that I killed the guys in the front. And I'm going to always double check that, though. I'm not just going to run out and make sure that there's not enemies hiding to my interior left. As soon as you hit the door to your left is where the first pack spawns. And then on the right side, a little further in on the right corner, is where the next pack spawns. And here again, I'm just taking advantage of my bow and making sure that I'm getting the volatile rounds going. That's going to prevent the smaller guys from grouping up with the bigger guys. Let's see, I'm checking my corners here, checking the other spawn, making sure I'm not just jumping into a group of enemies. And what I'm going to do when I get up here is I'm going to drop my bow down on the second level, and because that's going to allow me to grab the guys from the top, and the guys from the middle that spawn are going to always fall back so they're going to end up falling back just instinctively into the bow, and that's going to let me spread my volatile to everybody, and then the bow itself will let me spread damage to everybody by damaging like one big unit, for example, like the barrier knight. Now in this section, I'm not going to have a whole lot to add to this other than just your strategy on going left and right. Obviously, you're going to want to send one person up to get the one that's free at the very top. You just jump along the side to get above where you're entered the door. Here, I'm kind of messing with the large Taken, and he also has a huge shield, so what I'm doing is I'm just going to take my time and I'm going to shoot him in the foot. And then once I get up to the top, I'm going to drop my invis. When I get up there, instead of having to deal with the enemies that are snipers, they can two burst you basically. They both shoot you at the same time. They can kill you. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to go up, get invis, go grab the relic that I need, and then go to the front. Although in this case, by the time that I got the relic and got to the front, the guys had opened the door already, so I'm just going to skip ahead to the boss fight, so that way you can kind of see what we're doing in the boss fight. So as you're approaching the boss fight, you can use any ability that will remain, like a grenade, or in this case I throw a smoke, and then I get that smoke right back, because when you start the boss fight it refills your super bar and it refills everything. So I could have even dropped a bow there, but I saw that the guy on my team was going to activate it, so I didn't even try to drop the bow. That way I could still have my bow when I needed, just in case I needed it for an enemy group to save them. And so what I'm doing now is I'm just going to be roaming around the battlefield and killing anything that I can with a couple of dots, like the smaller units. You want to prioritize the wizards first, then the knights, then any of the smaller units. Now for the boss itself, you'll notice that I'm using the boss strategy that most people should use here, is you kite the boss, and hopefully you don't lose track of where he's at, because you'll end up like this person here who almost got slammed. But you're going to kite him all the way across and back and forth through the front area, because the pillars will block enemy attacks mostly, and the boss itself, when you run him back and forth, you can actually let him run the length of the entire floor at you while you're backing up, especially while he's in his first round and he's slow and he's not like running at you like he does in the second round. And then you just jump over his head. So again, high mobility is important for that, so that you can get over his head and he doesn't get any slam damage on you. If he does hit you a little bit, it's fine, just don't take a second hit, because usually the second hit can kill you. And so now what I'm doing is I'm just getting the boss to focus on me. My teammates are clearly dealing with the ads up top. I was hoping they would dealing with the wizards, but I think they leave a couple of wizards up, which is a little dangerous, because as I'm backing up here, let's say a wizard started attacking me from my right, I could go invis, but sometimes the wizards will continue to attack your body even though you're invisible, and then that additional spray can kill you. So a little bit dangerous, but here's a perfect example of me kiting the boss, and nope, there's the wizard there. So that's a perfect example of what happens if the enemies are allowed to run free, but I went invis, and I'm going to run out, and I'm going to try to help get the res. He couldn't stop to get the res because of the enemies attacking him, so I just went invis, and I made them invis, so that way they wouldn't be attacked as well and give them a chance to survive. So all we have to do here is push the boss into the next phase, and you just do that by getting him down to the little hash mark in the center of his health bar. And so the next thing we're going to do when he goes invis is to start to try to collect the arc enemies that spawn. There's going to be arc knights. They're going to drop orbs that you have to deposit 5 of into the center area. And once I get the boss into his second phase, I'll give you an example of how that's done. Alright, so boss is in the second phase. You're going to want to jump on these arc charge guys. What I'm doing is I'm hitting them with tenacious, so that way they freeze up and I don't have to worry about them getting off a couple of boomer shots on me and killing me. Then what I'll do is I'll either pick up the orb while I'm invis, or I'll go invis with the orb in my hand like I did here. Then I'm going to hop up, and even though there's a bunch of stuff up here, I can deposit this, and then I can dodge out, and I can still keep my invisibility. And so that's what I'm doing here. And you'll see me doing this a couple more times. I'm going to go ahead and kind of speed up a little bit and show the few times that I do get the dunk off, so that way you can kind of see, alright, this is what it looks like. As you can see, again, all these enemies around me, and nothing bothering me, so I'm going to jump down here. I'm going to start looking for the spot that I'm going to stay in. Once the boss's shields come down, this is going to be 5 of 5. And so here's the boss, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear out the ads on my side so that they can't just throw nades at me and kind of wreck me from the side the best I can. Although the enemies here are a little bit troublesome, especially the Bane enemy that has that kind of a, not a stun necessarily, but it tags a small void leech to you, and it starts to leech your health, and it also can kind of prevent you from staying in certain invis states and things like that. So just try to get away from those enemies, and I'm going to go and get the res and get back to safety. These two alcoves in the front on the left and the right with the giant pillar are safe spots from the boss if you can hop up into like a little section that you'll see me using when I actually do finish the boss. And so what I'm trying to do my best is to help and prevent those enemies from killing the teammates. Since I couldn't do that, I'm just going to go invis here again. I'm going to pick him up, and then immediately I'm going to make him invis, just like that. So as long as he doesn't break his invis, he can run away safely. Now, I've done that at my own risk because I don't have my invis back. And yes, I'm getting invis back quickly, but there's going to be a time in which you go invis and you're not able to go back invis. So that can be risky. When you do that, you're going to make sure you want to maybe wait a couple more seconds. I just didn't want to do that because I was worried the boss was going to slam one of the orbs or something and just end the run. And so here we are again in a risky situation. I'm going to go invis again with that 1 second left. Now I got my 12 seconds. And even though this Boomer Knight is still attacking me, I'm going to try to get that res off. And thankfully I did. And so as you see, I'm hiding in these alcoves because these are the safe spots. And I'm going to try to look for this wizard that has been shooting at us. And if I get surprised, just like anybody can surprise you there by that enemy, I can go right back to invis. I miss having the finisher in invis, but I'm not running that where I can grab the finisher in invis. I could have done that there, but it's fine. I have my invis back, and now I'm going to go and try to res the other person. Now here's where the run kind of breaks down, and I say to myself, okay, these guys die again. We only have 2 reses left. I'm not going to waste any more time in this situation trying to help keep these guys alive. I'm just going to kill what I can, and then I'm going to go and finish the boss if they die again. And so as you can see, everybody's hiding like they should, but there's a spawn that happens right behind us that takes my teammate by surprise, and he runs all the way across. They're both low health. I don't know what exactly is attacking them because I killed the wizard, so maybe just like a Boomer Knight is getting them. Here's the boss that I'm trying to avoid, and so since he died, this guy's going to go die over in the corner, it looks like. I'm just going to get out of the way of the boss and the orb so that I can't get stomped or attacked. I'm like, alright, you know what? They died. I'm just going to finish this. So what I'm doing now is I'm bringing the boss and I'm getting it to come over to my side where there's a little alcove like I talked about in the corner, and there's going to be a small shelf that you can jump up to, and I'm going to do that now that the boss is following me over here. And so it's a bad thing that he died, but it's a good thing because the boss isn't going to walk away from me now. And now the boss is basically in the kill zone. So once you get to this point, you can fire down at the boss, and as long as you don't look too far over the edge where he starts to slam, or as long as a Boomer Knight doesn't come in here and start attacking you, which can happen, you're pretty much safe. So what I'm doing now is I'm just using my bow, using the rapid attacks to get the volatile rounds, and I'm doing that to do damage to him. After a little bit, I get kind of sick of it, and I'm like, let me just super him, or let me just use my heavy. And when I went to go do the super, I don't think I actually used it because I was worried that the super would carry me off the edge, and that would ruin this little lock I have on the boss. So I'm like, alright, let me just do my heavy. If I was like on a Warlock, for example, I may have used my super if it was like the Nova Bomb or something like that. But since I'm on the Hunter, and you know how sometimes when you do your super it kind of moves your body, I didn't want anything to end the run. Since I'm last card in standing, we only have 2 reses left, I'm just like, let me just finish this. We've already been in this long enough. And again, as you can see, this is a great spot. The boss is not even moving an inch. He's just taking it. I'm sure my teammates are like spectating me, and they may not know about this, and they're like, what in the world is happening right now? As you can see, I'm just melting him. I had a stored up bolt charge. I have the additional Taken Seekers that are firing at the boss, even to the point where I stun the boss. That's how much damage I was doing in a short period of time. You can just see his health melt. You toss in a grenade down there, and if you have the weakened nades, of course that'll actually help. And then I'm just going to dump my mag. Rather than reload again, I'm just going to hit him with the bow a couple times, and just over with. And so again, this is that great build that I'm going to take to different GMs throughout the season. You'll see that any of the more difficult GMs, I may just decide to use this, even though I'm a Warlock main for the most part, and I play the Titan build because it's fun, the new Bull Charge build. This is actually like the heavy lifter, and it's obviously a rare build that you'll see nowadays because this is something that's from back in the old GM days when they were like super tough, and you don't really see a lot of people run this anymore. But this is great for solo runs. This is even better when you have a team to support, and as long as you have reses left, you'll be there to pick your team up. This is me also checking to see that the Grandmaster counted, so it looks like they finally checked off Grandmaster from last week. That was bugged. So now if you're doing Guardian ranks alongside me, you'll just have to get the additional rank with the vendor next week whenever they do Act 2, and then you'll be set. I've already obviously saved up my challenges for next week and XP for next week. So thanks for watching to the end. If you have any questions about the run, or if you get stuck on a certain point, just go ahead and drop that down into the comments and I'll be glad to answer your questions. I'll see you guys in the next one.